Good, good. So welcome to our annual budget town hall event. So it's good to see you, and I know there's a number of individuals participating by live stream. So my allergies are killing me. So my head stopped up. I can about as loud as I can talk. If you need me to talk louder, I can. And my hearing's about 50%. So if you have a question, yell it out when we get to that point. So we're going to go through, as we do every year, information in regard to the budget presentation that's been worked on for many months, and it's been worked on in partnership with the Budget Advisory Committee. We had a meeting, and that's faculty, staff, and students, a shared governance committee, as many of you know. And it's actually a work product of nearly 1 year. So basically, when the Board of Regents passes one budget in June of each year, we take a break through the summer, and in August you start planning for the next one. As we know what enrollment looks like and those types of things, you start planning on the next budget and working on the next budget. This year was a little later than normal in regard to the budgetary process. And before I get to that point, I want to thank Chairman Leon Owens is here, the chairman of our Board of Regents, and our faculty regent, Dr. Melanie Schimberger, is here somewhere right over here. And I don't think any other regents are here, but is Dr. Wilson here? Dr. Wilson, what? You didn't have a yellow shirt on, so I couldn't see you. Dr. Wilson, thank you for being here. So I want to thank the regents for being here, and actually they've seen this information through the Budget Advisory Committee process in the last few days. So some of this is an educational process of letting you know how the budget is crafted. We're going to fire through this fairly quickly, but stop us if you have a question for any of us. Just raise your hand or shout it out, either way. But I want you all to understand things like performance funding and how it works and why it is what it is, our base funding, how it works, and other components of the budgetary process. One-time monies, you're going to hear us use that term, versus recurring dollars. And recurring dollars is what builds the budget on an ongoing basis as well. So we're going to go through that process. So please, again, don't hesitate to stop and ask any questions in regard to this. So each year for the last several years, as long as I've been overseeing this process, the guiding principles, what makes, what are we trying to do? What do we hang on the wall to point to when we're crafting a budget? And obviously I'm not going to read these to you, you can see them, but these are the pillars of what a budget means to Murray State University, what it means to each of us, and what we're trying to achieve as we go through this process. And this will be presented to the board for its approval at its June meeting coming up very soon. Some additional guiding principles, and I am going to point out a couple of things here that you probably haven't seen in the past, but I want to make sure everyone understands them as an example. So just about everything we do is directed toward the performance funding model. We have a performance funding model, and the performance funding pool is $115 million. Every year that gets allocated to institutions. We don't think we get enough of those monies, so we are always working to try to get more of those monies. And from a comprehensive university standpoint, I'm going to show you in just a second, we do quite well. But we don't do as well as I wish we were doing, and we don't do as well as I think we can do down the road. However, we're doing better than our peers. Something that we're watching very closely because of the environment we're in is federal grant dollars. So why is that important to the budgeting process? Many people are tied to the budgeting, to the federal grant budgeting process. and it impacts the overall budget in some form or fashion. So we'll talk about that. If anyone has questions, you can let us know. But just about every day right now, we're fielding questions, and we're going to touch on that in a little more detail in just a moment. I get asked the question periodically about there's new building construction. There's a lot going on in that regard. There's a School of Nursing Health Professions building that's being constructed as we speak. A veterinary sciences building is getting ready to be built. A new, and I think it's in the hallway, and Jason's going to talk about it a little bit later, Learning Commons / Residence Hall, what that means, what that building is. So that's 3 major facilities that will be built with one-time budgetary monies. These were negotiated, appropriated funds in the state budget, along with a $10 million appropriation to do a complete makeover of the Martha Lane Collins building, the INT building, primarily for the purpose of cybersecurity to enhance that growing program. So one-time monies are very different than recurring monies, and we're going to talk about the budgetary process of those recurring monies, our base funding. Revenues and reallocations, just so everyone has an important factoid, $10.3 million of new revenue or reallocations from the existing budget had to occur to create this new proposed budget. Okay, $10.3 million. There's been, as I said earlier, a number of meetings over the last many months. Whether it's the Budget Advisory Committee, meetings with deans, meetings with chairs that the provost has had, other campus meetings, meetings with our Board of Regents, and that list goes on and on. So appropriations from the Commonwealth of Kentucky is what we operate on primarily. So 30% of our overall operating budget, approximately, it comes from appropriations. 70% is student-driven, enrollment-driven. And you hear me talk about that a lot. 72% of our budget, is enrollment-driven, and still the case today. 25 years ago, it was just the reverse of that. So that's how much the budgetary process has changed from the standpoint of how monies are appropriated from Frankfurt to each public university to make a budget work. Performance funding, we received a 7% increase over last year, which was $309,500. Okay, so you'll hear us talk about that a little bit later as well, and you'll see how our peers did in that regard. I made a reference a few minutes ago as it relates to, there were a few things that were a little later than normal. So we didn't get our tuition parameter information from the Council on Post-Secondary Education, the CPE, until just a few days ago, and we didn't get our final performance funding number until just a few days ago as well. I hope you can read this, or some of you can read this. The closer you are, you probably can. This is the third column where it has zeros. This is the appropriation change from our future year of the biennial budget to the year we're currently in. So there's $0 change. There is no new appropriated funding in this budget with the exception of performance funding. And I just showed you what that number is, $309,500. That's all the new money that we had to work with as it relates to appropriated funding to create this budget. And you'll see at the very bottom, the performance fund is $115 million. And again, we got $309,500 more than we did last year. I'll show you what we got in total of that number. 70% went to the University of Kentucky and the University of Louisville. So we continue to work on that model. We've made several changes in the last few years, we being the other institutional presidents, as we negotiate what needs to change in the performance funding model. Then It has to be enacted by the legislature for those particular changes. The performance fund and the performance guidelines that exist are in statute, meaning law. So anything we change, it has to be a change in a statute. So this is our history of performance funding since it's been in place for the last several years. Some of you will remember in FY20, we had to give back $433,000. So we ran the performance funding model, the Council on Post-Secondary Education, the CPE did, and said, well, you're not going to get any money. You've got to pay money back into the pool to be reallocated to other institutions. Basically meaning we were overfunded from that standpoint. The second year, FY21, you can see $827,500 we had to give back. And so, again, some of you will remember those were 2 really tough years where we had to give money back into the performance funding pool to be reallocated to others, primarily to Research 1 institutions. In FY22, we received 0. FY23, after some tweaks and changes that we made to the performance funding model, we received about $3.3 million. The next year, we received about $3.1. Last year, we had the largest percentage change of any public institution. We received about $4.75 million. This year, we received over $5, or $309,500 more than last year. So you can see over the total here, we've had to give back $1.26 million. We've received about $16.22 million from the performance funding pool, not our base appropriation we received from Frankfurt. This is in addition to. That's another way to look at it, so you can see how our peers are doing as well. Only 2 comprehensive universities, Murray and EKU, received more than last year. EKU got about 2% more. We received about 7% more, meaning we were performing in regard to the metrics that we operate on more and better than the other comprehensive universities. You can see Northern, Western, etc. were negatives. A couple of institutions received 0. Okay? So this is the performance funding model, a snapshot over a long period of time, really since inception. So I'm going to stop there. We want you to understand performance funding. It's a complicated area, but it's an important and growing area, and it's an area where we've got a lot of work to do institutionally, as well as across the state, especially for the comprehensive universities. 30% is allocated just approximately to the comprehensive universities. 70% is going to the Research 1 institutions, and approximately. And so you can see how the numbers are divided up. Any questions in regard to that component? Okay. So I'm going to stop there for now, and Jason's going to cover one-time monies regarding asset preservation and new construction so everyone knows what's happening there.
All right, so what we're presenting today, particularly on this slide here, was first presented to our board back in March. And so in our planning process for future backup plans and more recently the weather events that happened earlier this year, we decided to kind of change our gear a little bit into more contingency planning. So that contingency planning is to create portable generator docking stations for several of our buildings on campus, which are kind of outliers in our electrical grid. You can see those listed here. The work to make these docking stations for emergency backup generators will be from one-time funding for the building work, but we are working to fund the generator leases for this out of the FY26 budget. So again, the one-time funds from FY23, the state appropriated $47.3 million of asset preservation deferred maintenance money. This appropriation came with a match from the university of approximately 15%, and we were using our $12 million bonds as our match. And that is doing presently several of the renovation projects that we have ongoing on campus, some of which have already been completed, a lot of which are still in process today. Also in FY23, we had the $45.5 million appropriation for the Nursing and Health Professions building, which is under construction. And also the authorization for added residence hall rooms, which we did in the purchase of Station 74 apartment complex. Then in FY25, we had, again, one-time funding from the state of $46.8 million for asset preservation and deferred maintenance projects. Fortunately, this appropriation came with no match, so the university was not on the hook for the extra funds to make that total. And we've got several projects in the works. Several were taken to the board in March for approval that will be starting in design soon. Also appropriated in the FY25 budget was a $38 million Learning Commons with a residential housing component. And as Dr. Jackson said, there are presentation boards in the lobby out in the foyer area here at Rather for you to look at on your way in or out. This Learning Commons, really the first floor is what will be the Learning Commons area with 3 floors of residence hall above it. Also appropriated in FY25 was the $60 million for the Veterinary Sciences building, which is currently in design. We got $10 million of that, $60 million in FY25, and get the additional $50 this year coming up in July for FY26. Also appropriated was the $10 million cybersecurity program enhancements that Dr. Jackson alluded to. Those funds become available to us in FY26, starting in July, so we can start design of that renovation this summer. So next we'll have several photos, renderings that you've probably seen around in social media or different posts. The new nursing building, a rendering of what that building should look like. This is from the 16th Street area, from maybe the Great Lawn in front of the Science Complex looking that direction. And then a proposed rendering or a concept rendering of the new Veterinary Sciences building, which will be located on our West Farm complex just off of College Farm Road. And then our new Learning Commons with housing building, which is very similar to some of our newer housing buildings in style and look. This building will be located on the old Springer site, just north of Hart Hall, just right in front of the Wellness Center. And you'll see that this building is planned to be on the east side of that site, with the potential of a future building on the west that would face it to make bookends and the natural corridor straight through, basically from Franklin Hall at the south all the way to the Wellness Center. And our plan is, once this new Learning Commons is constructed, Hart Hall is planned to be razed or demolished at that time. Any questions on any of the projects that we've talked about briefly here? Yes, sir. No, the plan is for the first floor to be accessible to any student living in the residential complex, or possibly even students outside of that area that are part of residential colleges or a part of a program that is going on in that building. There will be meeting rooms for possible Greek life meetings, various class or program activities, first-year student opportunities possibly in this building, or first-generation students, lots of other opportunities. We're still working through concepts of what would the hours be, how does access work, because it is still a residence hall, so we want to keep non-residents out of the residence area. So we're working through that with the design team and Dr. Wilson and his group on the housing side to make sure we do that appropriately. Good question. Anybody else?
Could you go to the slide, Brian?
This one?
No, the one, the allocated money. Sorry, go back. That one right there. Could you explain the $100 million, is that for this year or the next year?
So this, you're talking about the FY25?
The asset preservation, and that's this current.
That's this current year. Yes, we're in FY25. Yep. Anything else? All right, well, I'm going to turn it over to Courtney.
So I had a text question. So we have a shy member of the audience. I was asked a question, what is our base funding? So if you're in the back and you cannot see this, Murray State University, base funding is about 42.5, I'm rounding it, 42.5 million. That's what it is today, and that's what it will be next year. So these are all base funding from the general fund of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, appropriated to each institution of higher learning, public institutions. So these are the base funds, about $785 million in total. So that's our base funding. Dr. Wilson, thank you for that question.
Okay, so investing in our people. So for the fiscal year 26, we're looking at proposing a 2% COLA and that's going to be calculated on base salary as of June 30 of this current fiscal year for next fiscal year. 1% for COLA calculation, just to give everyone an idea, it accumulates to $715,000. Another piece we wanted to mention is that there was $3.4 million paid in extra compensation to our faculty and staff this year. The next piece is the compensation review that we had for faculty and staff. Year one was implemented in fiscal year 25, which was 1/3. That accumulated to $1.1 million. Proposing for fiscal year 26, another 1/3 that would be implemented, which would result in $1.1 million. Total cost, and many of you may remember this last year when we presented, but total cost to have the compensation review fully implemented will result in $3.7 million. Another piece that we worked on for this current fiscal year to be implemented in FY26 is we reviewed the chair stipends that we have for faculty that are in those chair roles. And there will be some increases between 0 and 15% that will be applied to chair stipends. We're going to implement this. It'll have the same similar model where 1/3 will be implemented in FY26, which resulting in about $60,000 for FY26. There will be a remaining 2/3 that we'll have to fund in the future. There will be no decrease in benefit levels related to health insurance, leave policies, anything like that for fiscal year 26. And then another component that was worked on this year, and there's going to be a recommendation, is that Faculty Senate worked on a proposal for a faculty promotion amounts to change, and University Administration is moving forward with a recommendation for that to change by a $1,000 increase. So for currently, assistant professors and associate professors is moving from a $3,000 increase to $4,000, so that's resulting in a 33% increase. And then a promotion from associate professor to professor is moving from $6,000 to $7,000. So that's resulting in a 17% increase. And those promotions, with that increase, will be effective for any promotions July 1 or after for fiscal year 26. So as mentioned, we're recommending a 2% COLA for across the board for fiscal year 26. That's going to apply to all regular faculty and staff that were hired before April 1st. The average raise for this model is $1,218, and then the average salary at the institution for faculty and staff is $60,901. The total average salary increase for the past 3 years, including COLA or any other pay adjustments, is 11.87%. And this here is really just a recap of what we presented last year when it comes to the compensation review to show kind of the overall impact of what that will be once it's fully implemented. And many of you may remember for faculty, we had 51.9% faculty that were going to be receiving an increase. We had 48.1% that were considered to be at or above market. The average total faculty increase was $5,754. That did not include COLA or any other pay adjustment. And then for staff, it was 61.7% that received an increase. 38.3% were considered to be at or above market. And the average total for staff was $3,800. And then as far as health and wellness, our plan summary, wanted to show for 23, you can see the projections that were provided and what the budget was established on. And you can see for plan year 2024, what was established for the budget, and then for 2025. And I know that these numbers may be small, but you'll note over here at the top, for 2023, the percentage for the employee contribution was 12.2%, and the employer contribution was 87.8%. So as you may remember, in 2024, that was year one of the first year that we did a move to an 80-20 cost share distribution. And you'll see that the employee premiums were moved to 14.7% with that model, and then the employer costs were 85.3%. So for 2025 plan year, which is year two of that cost share distribution shift, we moved to 17.2% for the employee premiums, and then 82.8% for the employer premiums. So we're just continuing to move with that shift. You'll also note that the total overall plan cost each year has continued to increase, and that's reflected here at the bottom of each slide, of each section there. And you'll note that for plan year 2025, the total increase is up to $15.2 million, which is what we budgeted for this current plan year. Are there any questions related to review or the health and wellness related items? Yes. So that's actually in process right now. I believe, Tim, that's being reviewed for the instructor to senior instructor. So I think that's something that Faculty Senate's going to be working on over the next year. Okay, so sorry. That's going to be the mean, the average. And that's going to be for any COLA that has been, over the last 3 years, plus any other increases, including comp review, is included in that. Okay. I think that's it. So Dr. Todd, I think you're going to be next. I'll get you to where you need to be.
We've got several slides on academics, and this really is more of a table of contents of what you're getting ready to see. So we're going to expand on these bullet items. This one's a pretty busy textual slide, but it really encompasses from the standpoint of reviewing academic programs, low enrolled programs, no enrolled programs. It involves looking at not only programs but courses, tracks. So it's one of the things that we all of us in academic affairs, we do this every year. So this is not new. It's a little more sophisticated model than what we traditionally have done in the past, but it's not anything new. So the deans and the chairs and all the faculty involved in this have been just super. At the end of the day, the bottom line is, if you've got a low enrolled program and you want to grow it, then let's be serious and definitive on how we're going to do it. And if you think it's outlived its course, then we need to sunset it. So that's really what this process is, and all universities do it, and that's just an encapsulating slide for that process. Some select programs that are very high-cost programs, we were able to put forth pending board approval, Chairman, and the other two regions, the faculty and staff region in the room. These fees are designed to assist programs with additional costs incurred. They're assessed to any student enrolled regardless of enrollment level. They're only occurred in the fall and the spring, so nothing in the summer, unless it's a 12-month program, and there are some of those, not very many. It's modeled after other peer public institutions. And then there at the bottom, those are the 8 or 9 programs that are going to be receiving some income stream that will stay in the college and in the departments. Those monies will not go to the general fund. It will help fund these programs with ongoing costs. Specifically, undergrad nursing, $350 per semester. Undergrad and grad nutrition, $100 per semester. Undergrad music, $50. Undergrad graphic design, $50. This was a long one. Undergrad engineering, undergrad cybersecurity, and undergrad and graduate occupational safety and health, $150. Undergrad animal vet tech and pre-vet, $150. Bachelor of Independent Studies, $100, and graduate occupational therapy is $200. And some of these are, especially the occupational therapy, there's accreditation issues with many of these that the president and I had a meeting with one of the accreditors on this list, and point blank, they said, you got to put more resources in this program or you're going to lose accreditation. Well, we don't want to lose accreditation in healthy programs. We want to continue to grow them. We also went through an examination, like we always do, of retirement, vacant positions. We reviewed those. There were some reallocations. We've got over 400 faculty at Murray State, and basically there's 5-6 reallocations going into this next year, and you see where reallocation resources went. Graphic art and design, occupational therapy, cyber, security, some beefing up of the Faculty Development Center to encourage more from that center across all disciplines at the university for faculty development. Engineering and dental hygiene, and I'll expand on dental hygiene here in a second. A quick slide here on summer school. $1.2 million is budgeted for summer school salaries. These next two, those are carry forward funds, $4.6 in web fees and course fees, $2.2. It costs a little more than that to run summer school, but working with the Faculty Senate, President Roach and Dr. Bordiari and Heidi and others, we were able to make sure that this summer is not going to be different. I'll be honest with you, we started this process last fall, and I got a little ahead of myself. Okay, I'll take the blame for that. So it started stirring up some Faculty Senate problems, and I went, at the request of President Roach, I went to the full Senate and apologized. I said, hey, I got going a little fast. We're going to slow it down. We're going to appoint a task force, and we've slowed it down, and we came up with a shared governance, solid solution. So I appreciate the Faculty Senate's participation in that process. The President alluded to this too, I think in one of the opening slides. In the world that we live in today, we have to monitor very closely some federal grant funding. And these are several that we are monitoring very, very closally. The U.S. Department of Ed with regard to TRIO programs, WKMS, public radio, the dental hygiene, which was a USDA grant. We have to monitor it, and that's what we have been doing. The Department of Justice, the Chief of Police was instrumental, and his staff and team in a police equipment grant, and then some of the funding for the Breathitt Veterinary Center within agriculture. So those are really the big ones that we're just monitoring. Going into the fall, there's a couple of macro reorganizations that are either going to happen or we're asking to be examined to possibly happen. One is that I expanded on that a minute ago, the Faculty Development Center, beefing up and increasing the kinds of opportunities that'll be taught from a teaching and learning perspective to our over 400 faculty to increase quality of academics. All of this is underneath that kind of theme. And in addition to that, the opportunity to at least examine that second bullet of what I call the Wilson Hall programs. I'm in organizational communication. That's where my tenured faculty line is. And is there an opportunity for some type of synergy, some type of further effectiveness, perhaps further efficiencies going into the fall to maybe have a recommendation in December, okay? All that is saying is an examination. If the recommendation is that we don't think there's any changes needed, then so be it. But so that one is the one that's just kind of being propped up and teed off for discussion. Okay, that's all that is. A couple of more opportunities. The School of Vet Med, Dean Parr, along with obviously the president and Jordan and Jackie and Jason and Angela and just the full team effort. That's a wonderful. The Senate Bill 77 providing that pathway. We already have the appropriated dollars for the veterinary science building. So all of that is moving forward. There's a task force that's in place right now. Dr. Purvine is on that task force along with me and Dr. Pfister and several others. Brian is chairing that. So I wanted to share that with everyone and appreciate the leadership of Dean Parr. Murray State and the University of Louisville, there's been some excitement via the President Jackson and the former president at U of L, even the former president at U of L. That's when these discussions started. We're now in the third president at U of L. But all of this, along with Baptist Health and Murray Callaway and Mercy and regional healthcare partners, there's an opportunity here for some type of really focused medical school education program that's going to be here at Murray State. And we're super excited about that. Dean Fuller, Dean Byers have been leads on that. Their faculty, particularly in biology and chemistry, have been leads on that. Our counterparts are the Dean of Medicine at U of L, Jeff Bumpus is his name. He's a Paducah Tillman graduate. So he's very excited about this because this is his home region of Kentucky. So there's wonderful momentum going on here, and those are two very significant opportunities going forward. The dental hygiene opportunity. The federal grant was written to begin the program with hiring of a director, and interviews have occurred. A chosen candidate is picked. We're now working through just the final stages of making all of the money work. And Dean Byers has been a huge leader in this. Dean, I know you're in here somewhere. I appreciate it. There you are. And along with Jackie and Courtney and everyone in the financial side. Dr. Taylor, you've been a super partner in this too, you and your family. I want to thank you publicly. I know you're there. So this is going to be a reality, and we're super excited about it. So it will be housed in Mason Hall. You see there at the bottom of it. And a couple of other restructuring that, just for your information, post office, whatnot, and printing services. Any questions that I might be able to answer? All right. Thank you. Jackie, I think you're up. Thanks.
Well, you've about seen all of us at this point. I think I'm your last stop. Can everybody hear me okay? I'll pop back here real quick. As the provost mentioned, we have two restructurings. The post office has already occurred. It's simply an issue of we had a retirement. We consolidated two units, the post office and receiving, and print shop will be transitioning to a similar type thing. Only the print shop will remain as it is. They'll continue to offer the same services, but consolidate some of the work due to a retirement. So we just wanted to make sure everybody on campus knew about those changes. So talk a little bit about tuition. We've went through the process, as the president mentioned, and the council has approved the 2-year tuition max, which also includes a one-year max. So what we're looking at this year is 4.2% tuition increase, which is $420,000, I'm sorry, I wish it was $420,000 from a budget standpoint. That's the reason I took my glasses off and need to put them back on. $420 annually. So that would be the increase for the fall and spring for the upcoming fiscal year. Now, because this is the first year of that two-year cycle, we already know what our FY27 tuition increase will be, which will be $210, the remaining portion of a 6.4% cap. So for the next 2 years, our tuition is limited to 6.4% by the CPE. Important note on here is, you'll see kind of the middle of this screen, is we've had over the last 5 years, I mean, we typically have tuition increases, but they're very managed. You can see here our 5-year average is at under 2%, 1.94%. I want to make sure everybody understands. We take it very seriously when we set tuition. We know it's a cost for our students, but we're also challenged with trying to balance the budget. As the president mentioned, we're trying to balance a $10.3 million budget increase this year. So that's what we'll continue to talk about through the rest of the presentation. Scholarship funding for just the next fiscal year will be going up $4.2 million. And that's the funding from the university. That's our portion. In total, we fund just short of $50 million in scholarships from the university's budget. Everyone here knows, we've already said it today, 72% of our budget is enrollment driven, whether that's tuition, course fees, housing and dining, lots of different things. But 72%, the remaining is the 30% of appropriation that the president talked about earlier. During last fiscal year, we spent, when I say we, this is the university, its foundation contribution, third-party contribution, $136 million on scholarships. That's a really big number. That's an important number. And those funds go toward student accounts or refunds to students. In addition to that, going forward, we've had our capital campaign, and I know, Tina, you and your team are here, but we have generated $4+ million in new dollars that will be coming in and going towards those private funds that will pay out to our students. A couple more items on student affordability, the Bucks for Brains program, mandated waivers. I'm not going to go through and read all this. One item I want to explain, it's a new item this year. Right now, we're going to be proposing to the board that we implement late fees on our student accounts. We don't have late fees at the present time on our student accounts, except when students are on payment plans. So you'll see what those proposals will be, and those will be going forth to the board and are included in this budget. Fixed cost, I think folks here are pretty familiar with what fixed costs are: utilities, insurance, and sundry items. Those are all covered in the budget. We are proposing an increase in our minimum student wage hours. Right now, our minimum is $8 an hour. Many of our student workers make more than that based on what the departments choose to pay them, but we will be going to $8.50 as the minimum for those student worker wages. It's something we will be implementing come July 1.
The reason I was asking is because I'm going to be sending out information, for the student workers in the fall, and I need to know whether I can list $8 an hour as the pay rate or $8.50.
If they're student workers, $8.50 will be the minimum. And we'll be sending information out on that and how we'll process that. We'll expect PAs to stop in June and that type of thing, but we'll get that information out to the campus. Pell amounts, important to note, 34% of our students receive Pell Grants. Those are federal dollars, Pell federal grants. And 99% of our students receive some form of aid. Might be private aid, might be university aid, might be third-party aid. So almost all of our students get some type of scholarship or discount. I have a couple of slides here. I know no one out there probably, I can't even see the numbers from where I'm standing, but they're to discuss net price. And this is student net price, gross tuition, less discounts or scholarships. I want you to look at the very top line, the blue line. And what that shows you is the change in net price of the research universities in the state, which is UK and U of L. And you'll see over here to your left, you'll see it starts at about $12,000, if you can see that. And it goes up to a little over 19. So you'll see that's a gradual increase in net costs, what the student is expected to pay. The middle of the pack is the red line, and that's the comprehensive universities, which is what we are in. That's Eastern, Western, Northern, Murray State, KSU, and Moorhead. And you'll see over on the left again, a little bit short of $10,000 is where we started in fiscal year 2009. That's the left margin. If you'll follow that red line to fiscal year 23, which is the end, we're at $9,800. So $9,700 to $9,800 since fiscal year 2009 to 2023. Again, net price, you can see how that chart hasn't changed a lot in that length of time for the comprehensives. The bottom line is KCTCS, and naturally they do have a different tuition model than the rest of us. But we wanted to really demonstrate where the comprehensive schools in the state have been and continue to be. Murray State's a big contributor to keeping that at that level. That's something our students, we really want to make sure they understand, that net pricing model. So this slide talks about the same thing, only it's for Murray State. You see the gray bar is fiscal year 20. And you'll see Murray State's net price is right at $9,800. If you go to the last one over to the right, you'll see our net price is at just a hair over $6,900. So Murray State in that length of time has decreased our net price over 30%. So again, that's the gross tuition, less scholarships and discounts. So we're even less, if you go back to the red line and you look at the far right, which is a little over 9,800, we are at a little over 6,900 right now, or for fiscal year 23. Any questions on tuition fees? So this is a chart we present every year, and you'll see the yellow line is Murray State, and you'll see where we fall in the pack as far as our annual tuition. So for fiscal year 26 going forward, we'll be proposing an annual tuition rate, which does include our asset preservation fees, but it does include that for everyone else too, at $10,620. And you'll see the increases for everyone on there. The reason the increases are higher the lower you go is that we are all going up at a fixed rate instead of a percent. I know that's a little hard to understand, and I probably shouldn't have introduced it, but now I got to finish telling you about it. $420 this year is the maximum we can go up as a comprehensive institution. So if everyone goes up to that level, the percentages, because other schools have a higher tuition rate that we do, their percentages get smaller. So this is how we'll benchmark going forward. Housing rates, we'll be proposing a 2.5% increase in housing rates, and you'll see at the very top, that's the proposed rates going forward into fiscal year 26, and you'll be able to see where we benchmark with the other schools. Again, about the same place we are with tuition. Dining, a similar place. Dining will be going up 3.6%, and you'll see the board plan rate will be $26.59, and you'll see again, we're about in the middle of the pack or a little bit below that. A few other items we just want to make sure everyone knows is included in the budget. The second year of our telehealth program, health clinic funding, new residence halls. Jason mentioned the purchase of Station 74, and certainly the construction of the Learning Commons. Athletics is a big portion of our budget. This year, we're going to be about 54%, just a tad over 50% funding athletics overall. So athletics has to come up with a very big chunk of their budget from private dollars, sponsorships, ticket sales, all those other types of revenues. It's important to note that athletics, because they have all these other revenues, they've got to fund all of their facility work. So you'll hear asset preservation, you'll hear Jason talk about a lot of projects, but athletics has to fund the majority of the projects to those athletic facilities because we can't use those dollars on athletic facilities. Several changes for technology enhancements are included in the budget this year. You can read many of those. I do want to point out that we've got several Wi-Fi enhancements we're going to be making across campus, strengthening, broadening the coverage in the Curris Center, the Wellness Center, those student-focused areas, as well as many of the outside areas that you'll see, Woods Park included, and really highly populated paths that our students take during the day to and from class, to the library and out and about. Two other items I do want to point out. Near the bottom, you'll see we're going to begin a project for retention app. And this is really something that's a retention tool, is to help notify students or campus community when we have things going on. It's kind of like a GPS type app, possibly. We do not have this ready to go. That's the reason I want to bring it up. It is a project starting, and we're going to start working on it. Don't know really how long it'll take, but it's an important project for us, and it'll be important for our students, but it will be a really big retention tool, we think. Any questions on technology enhancements? Because we're going to fund them with a proposed increase in our technology fee. The university currently has a $100 a semester technology fee. This is not part of our mandatory fee, and it does exclude several populations, as you'll see at the bottom of the slide. But that fee will be proposed to go to $200 a semester in an effort to fund the enhancements that were just on the other screen, these items here. Plus others, but these are really the most costly that we'll be investing in. I know the part everybody's been waiting for. It's the dollars. And David Roach, I'm going to make sure I point out that we balance the budget, comes to zero. You'll see appropriations, and you'll see the 309 that the president was talking about earlier today. You'll see a larger number on here, which is debt service. The university has to get revenue from the state for debt service, and then we have to turn around and pay it back. So that's an in and an out. This is the rest of our budget summary. I know most of you probably can't read it, but the yellow line at the bottom is the $10.3 million. So we've got $10.3 million of revenues and reallocations that are necessary to cover the priorities in this budget. Expenditures, you'll see the COLA at the top, you'll see comp review. These were the numbers that Courtney was talking about. So total salaries and benefits out of that 10.3 million is almost $4 million. That would be our investment in salaries, health insurance, retirement, all of our salary and benefit plans. For total expenditures, again, of 10.3, with a balanced budget of 0 at the bottom. I know folks don't understand how hard that is to get to, but it really is. And we're very fortunate to be able to come together and work as a team to produce a balanced budget. The budget calendar, that's pretty small synopsis of what has went on, but we're sitting here near the bottom, April 30th today, town hall meeting. After we finish this, get questions and comments, we'll be finishing the budget and pulling it together to get it to the board for their approval at their next board meeting on June 6th. Then the CPE, after the board approves our budget, including tuition, will act upon our recommended tuition rate. Continued next steps. These are things we do every year. We do all the time. Nothing really has changed here except the one item, and I know the President mentioned this earlier, is the monitoring of those federal grants. If you've had federal grants, you know what we're going through. We're looking at all expenditures. We're trying to time them just right to ensure we get reimbursed from the federal government before we go spend the rest of the grant. It's really a big deal for folks that are dealing with federal money right now. If anybody's got questions, Jordan has a mic here that he'll run back to you. Yes. Yep.
With the fee that's associated with late payments that'll start in the fall, will students have an appeal process that they can go through in the instant that the reason why the payment is late is due to unforeseen circumstances beyond their control?
Yeah. Our Student Financial Services Office works with every student, and most of the time, one-on-one, individually. So we'll be setting up procedures to really, as soon as someone doesn't make a payment, let's say it's due Friday, they don't make a payment, we're not going to assess these fees. We're going to go through processes of communicating with them, sending them reminders. There'll be a period of time that will occur. And we certainly encourage all of our students, whether they're current students or they're non-students, actually, to reach out to Student Financial Services to help. Maybe it's a payment plan we need to start. There's various options. These are not things that we encourage. We're not looking forward to late payment fees, but we really are an outlier in that area. We've learned as we've researched this, all the schools in the state have some form of late payments, as well as most schools in our region, and I would venture to guess across the country, but we have done a lot of research on this, and we're really an outlier in that regard. But we are prepared to work with our students, certainly.
Can you go back to the slide that shows which students don't have to pay the technology fee?
Sure. So as it is today, students that are taking fully online or take online credit hours, dual credit, Racer Academy students, those special high school students we have, and students that take less than 5 credit hours of face-to-face teaching, learning. So that will continue. There's no change in that. We're just proposing the increase in the fee.
Jackie, as a point of clarification about the exclusions, so it excludes online credit hours. Is that only for students who are only taking online credit hours? How does that?
No, it's just those online, it is online credit hours. Because students that take online credit hours are paying online fees.
Right.
So
but
it's only those students taking 5 or more face-to-face classes.
who are taking how much face to face?
5 or more credit hours of
5 or
face-to-face.
okay. Thank you. That's the part that it wasn't
Sure,
clear. So
sure.
students. Okay. Thank you.
I'm excited that Murray State's taking on the endeavor of helping our region out in our healthcare needs for dental hygiene and dentistry in general. It's a great, huge problem we have right now. We're underserved, and Murray State is really stepping up in that. And I want to first of all thank you all for taking on that and doing that. I do have one question though. We have a candidate that we've interviewed and gone through, and just wondering, I know as Dr. Todd mentioned, there is that particular position has been, looks like approved, and wondered when you might see that might be opportunity, might be to hire that person and get going on that. But
Sure.
first of all, thank you all it's a huge need, and it's going to service our community and our region. It's going to be a real shot in the arm for Murray State, so thank you.
Sure. Dr. Todd, can you address the status of the staff position?
Several of us worked on it today, worked on it yesterday, new buyers, we looked at it, HR is involved, acting shop's involved with it, and just grant funding things complicate that. So for those problems, we are very, very
I want to say something regarding that. Dr. Taylor, I want to thank you, and I hope everyone can hear me. So when we started a couple of years ago talking about the dental hygiene program, Dr. Taylor, his colleagues stepped up and will be using his facilities, his equipment in the interim to make this work. And I know Dean Byers has worked very closely with him, but Randy, very few people will do what you're doing. We appreciate it very much. It makes a huge difference to this region. And I just want to say thank you.
For this region, it's amazing. The region of our country, not just Western country, but this region, we really do got one in a crisis situation to service our patients and clients. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions, comments? Dr. Jackson, any closing comments?
And lastly, I want to thank everyone. There's been a lot of questions. This is about a year-long process, as I said earlier, and everyone plays a role in it. The Budget Advisory Committee plays a role in it. The Faculty Senate, the Staff Congress, the Student Government Association. I just want to thank all of those particular groups as it relates to the good work that they have advanced in regard to this. And most importantly, our Board of Regents. They passed the budget last June. They will be presented a new budget this June, and it will be very much, if not identical,